In today's world, we are surrounded by robotics, but what exactly does that mean? Robotics deals with the design, construction, operation, and use of robots, as well as computer systems for their control, sensory feedback, and information processing. Robots can range from very simple to extremely complex systems, and they can be used for a multitude of reasons. In this video, we will briefly discuss the history of robotics, current innovations, what the future for this field looks like, and lastly, cover an example problem containing a circuit.
It is often thought that the development of robotics began with the creation of Leonardo da Vinci's robot, a mechanical knight designed to move as if there was an actual person inside in the 15th century, or with the early clock towers constructed in 11th century China. However, many of the inventions that laid the foundation for modern-day robotics date as far back as 1400 BC. According to Forbes magazine, early Babylonians developed a clock that moved by the flow of water, known as clepsydra. It is early creations like these that have created a path for brilliant inventors all over the world to develop one of the biggest and fastest growing industries of all time, robotics. Naturally, when one thinks of a robot, one generally thinks of what we know as a humanoid robot. While most robotic machinery is modeled after a human-like characteristic but does not resemble a human being, a humanoid robot is ideally more like an actual person. In the 1950s, the term artificial intelligence was coined to refer to the intelligence of machines and the branch of the computer science that aims to create it. It was not until 1956 that the first robotics company, Unimation Inc., was formed. George Devall, the man that created the first programmable robot 2 years earlier, and Joseph Engelberger created the first industrial robot, Unimate. In 1961, it began working on an assembly line for General Motors, and what is known as the robot revolution began. Today, more than 40 Unimate robots, among many other Unimation Inc. creations, are produced each month, as well as robots of competitor companies that have come about in the last 50 years.
Now that we know a little bit about the history of robots, let us move on to the current achievements and innovations in the industry. Earlier this year, Dr. Shunjing Yu and his research team from the University of Houston came up with a way to allow robots to feel touch. It is an artificial rubber skin of circuits and sensors that are able to sense pressure, strain, and temperature. Yu said the rubber electronics and sensors have a wide range of applications, from biomedical implants to wearable electronics to digitized clothing to smart surgical gloves. He also said because the rubbery semiconductor starts in a liquid form, it can be poured into molds and scaled up to larger sizes, or even used like a kind of rubber-based ink and 3D printed into a variety of different objects. Saudi Arabia recently granted citizenship to a humanoid robot named Sophia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction, Sophia said during her onstage appearance, which was shared on YouTube by Arab News. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship, the robot said. You may have guessed it already, but she has some pretty good artificial intelligence. None of it would be possible without the lead AI developer, David Hanson, of Hanson Robotics.
As robotics progress exponentially, mankind indulges in its tendency to look to the future and its marvels and terrors. In the case of robotics, there's a wide variety of terrors ranging from mass unemployment to humanity's slavery or extinction due to mass war with our robotic counterparts. As robotics become more advanced, we can definitely expect them to replace humans in many fields. Yes, this does sound like impending unemployment, but the focus of robotics being applied to the job market is on hazardous situations in order to preserve human life. Around the world, robots are under development to be employed in search and rescue operations for various natural disasters, especially earthquakes. These robots will be able to maneuver structurally unsound buildings post-seismic activity and retrieve trapped individuals without risking the lives of rescuers. This is just one example of the limitless future of robotics. Now, to satisfy those of you fearing the robot apocalypse, do not fret. Robots are barely autonomous, yet alone sentient. There will not be any wars with robots anytime soon. Also, though companies are looking to automate much of their production and staff, jobs won't be lost because there will be an increase in demand for techs to operate and maintain the robots, while other companies will find new activities for their employees to take part in and help the company without firing them. Okay, so if you ever plan to get into robotics, you're going to have to know how to work a simple circuit, and that's what we're going to show you how to do today. So, as you can see in our picture, you have a 12-volt battery linked to a selection of resistors set up in series and parallel. First, you have resistance 1 at 40 ohms, resistance 2 at 100 ohms, resistor 3 at 40 ohms, resistor 4 at 10 ohms, and resistor 5 at 50 ohms. So, with these set up, first thing we're going to do is solve for our total resistance. So you have R for the first loop is going to be R equals 100 plus, with these two resistors being in parallel and not in series, it's going to be 1 over their total combined resistance, which is going to be 1 over 10 plus 1 over 40 plus 50 being our resistance from our resistor number 5. So you add all of these together and you get 158 ohms. Alright, so now we have to solve for the overall resistance from our first solve for resistance in parallel with our second resistor at 40 ohms. So this is going to be 1 over R is equal to 1 over 40 plus 1 over 158. So you solve for that and you'll get your total resistance is 31.92 ohms. Now what you're going to do is you're going to solve for your currents 1 and 2. And this happens to be current 1 plus current 2 is equal to 12 over your total resistance, which is 31.92. And it's going to give you a total current of 0.376 amperes.
In conclusion, robotics has been around for thousands of years, and this branch of science will continue to thrive in the future. There is so much to look forward to and be excited about. Technology is constantly evolving, and every day, we as people get closer and closer to solving the challenges we face thanks to it. Because of this, the study of engineering and science is so fascinating and important. Thank you for watching our video on the basics of robotics.